It feels really good when we're productive, right? But when something gets in the way of completing our work, man, it can ruin your day.
Friction is everything you do when you don't spend time with customers, right? That's all the documenting the stuff that you're doing and participating in endless meetings to try to close the loop on the matrix. These are all things that take time, and that's time that's away from customers.
Let's take a look at reducing the friction we experience in our work on this episode of the CX Leader Podcast.
The CX Leader Podcast is produced by Walker, an experience management firm that helps our clients accelerate their XM success. You can find out more at walkerinfo.com.
Hello, everyone. I'm Pat Gibbons. I'm host of this week's episode of the CX Leader Podcast. And as always, thank you for listening. You know, it's never been a better time to be a CX leader, and we explore topics and themes to help leaders like you deliver amazing experiences for your customers. You know, we've all experienced it, the nagging, frustrating, and sometimes maddening feeling we get when something collides with our productivity. And while it can sometimes feel trivial, that type of friction, it just adds up and it affects our interactions with our customers, thus affecting the customer experience. So how do we minimize those points of friction in the workplace? Well, our guest today has a unique perspective on work friction and can help us unpack this topic. Christophe Martel is the CEO of FOUNT, a software platform designed to help reduce friction and improve productivity and employee experiences. Christophe, welcome to the CX Leader Podcast.
Thanks for having me this afternoon.
Well, it's, this is an interesting topic. Like many CX professionals, I've kind of become more and more interested in these topics that look at the interaction between the employee experience and the customer experience. You know, we all know there's a connection, but really getting into the details of that and knowing how to drive things that are crucial to employees that we know have an effect on customers, really, trying to address those issues, that can be a tougher situation. And I think this is, right in the middle of that. So let me start at the beginning. The term work friction, what do we mean by that? And how did you get into this?
So I got into it by having worked for a long time and experienced a lot of work friction firsthand.
Okay, that's
in
sometimes
various
how it happens,
organizations.
Right?
Yeah, actually, more recently, I worked for a company called CEB, the Corporate Executive Board, where I was a business leader for many years, on head of EMEA, based out of London. And realized firsthand, first of all, how important customer experience is, and it was also a topic we studied at the time, and also realizing how important employee experience was in driving good customer experience, and in many ways, right? First of all, cranky customer-facing employees don't make for great experiences for customers, but also people that don't stay in seat very long are upend the customer experience because you now have someone new and is not yet trained enough to serve customers at the right standards. And so on and so forth. So try to figure out a way as a business leader to solve that problem of how do I manage employee experience in a way that's more deliberate than what it currently is. Never really managed to do so, and accept the typical things of better leadership, better culture, etc. And then shifted roles and moved to HR and became CHRO for CEB to actually take a shot at fixing this employee experience thing, and discovered that as a CHRO, it's also really hard to do, because you don't really have visibility into what is really happening when people do their work. And that kind of brought me to creating FOUNT, which is about understanding not so much how people feel about the company they work for and even feel about the work they do, but what it is that gets in the way of them being successful at their work or being successful in all these things they attempt to do while at work.
Right.
And that includes learning and growing and everything else.
Yeah. Maybe give us a few examples of, common friction that someone would see in a particular position.
So in customer facing roles, so think about sales folks, friction is everything you do when you don't spend time with customers, right?
Yeah.
Like that's all the documenting the stuff that you're doing and participating in endless meetings to try to close the loop on the matrix. Like these are all things that take time, and that's time that's away from customers. When you are in a more customer service environment, call center environment, it's everything that prevents you from serving your customer in the way that you would want to. And that means if it's a complex policy situation, do you have all the right tools at your fingertips to solve the problem? Do you have the right escalation path that is available to you to problem solve or not, right? And so that is, and when you don't, it actually makes employees incredibly frustrated that the company asks them to do what is a difficult job usually, and doesn't make it as easy as possible for them to do so. So juggling multiple systems, multiple sources of information, like all of that stuff gets in the way of doing what they're trying to do, which is to do a good job with customers. And then the last one in the retail world where when a cashier machine breaks down, what does the person at the till do except being embarrassed by the line that's just getting bigger and bigger by the minute, and when no one comes to help and fix the machine, it's just a very bad situation to be in as an employee because you're letting customers down, and you personally feel pretty terrible.
Right.
So these are examples.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think it starts with the premise that you got to expect most people want to do a good job. I'm thinking just of a recent example. It's maybe a trivial one, but I went to the pharmacy to pick up a prescription, and this has happened repeatedly. They'll log in, and they usually have this frustrated roll of their eyes. They're like, "Oh, the system's rebooting," and,
That's right.
And
yeah,
they're experiencing frustration, and some of it is because they know that I'm just standing there watching them.
And also it reflects poorly on them, right? So that the company that they work for has not made it easier for you to get what you need. And we did research on this, right? The main reasons why people dislike work friction are not about their financial or even career interests. It's all about it wastes my time, it slows me down, makes it hard for me to do a good job. It makes more work. Like I'm basically wasted. Like, why do you make it harder than it should? And when you think about us as customers, right? So remember that these employees are also consumers on the other side of their day. They're used to a pretty frictionless experience as consumers, and that gap is growing.
Right.
And with every passing generation, there's less tolerance for putting up with I think it was called the Sunday to Monday shock. Right?
Uh-huh. Well, you mentioned something that was just crossing my mind is the generational side of this. I'm assuming, again, I'm thinking young people are so comfortable with technology and the way that that issues are solved and shopping is done, and there's an omni-channel approach to so many things. You can go in a store, you can do things online, you can do it on the app, that the tolerance level must be particularly low with that audience. Is that what you find?
Absolutely. Our data shows it. Experienced professionals know that experience is shaped by expectations. And expectations for Gen Z workers are pretty different from mine, right? As born in France in the 60s, I have pretty high tolerance for work friction because I've seen all kinds of it. But my son, who was 22, has very different standards, and that kind of governs the kind of employer and the kind of work that he would want to do. And that, is just an evolution of that is driven by his experience as a consumer. That is more and more digitally enabled and frictionless.
Right.
So so for us, the definition of work friction is anything that gets in my way at work that shouldn't. Right, so it's not all friction is bad, right? The work is often full of friction because customers are not always happy, etc. But the employees understand that, and they can deal with that as long as the company doesn't make it harder than it should to conduct the work they're trying to conduct.
I would think too, in some industries, there would be regulatory issues that it's a step in the process, but it's established for the right reasons. But I think, like, you work in the hospitals or with nurses and so forth, they probably have those, but you try to make them as easy to work through as possible.
Yes. So one very interesting thing about the work friction is in the eye of the beholder, right? It's very much like honestly CX. Like a good customer experience is in the eye of the customer. Anyone inside the company who pretends they know doesn't. Well, for employees, it's the same thing. And so if you think about a regulated environment, so banks, for example, of all kinds, have usually very heavy processes that makes customer experience more difficult than it should be. And also that makes employees' experience more difficult than it should be. As long as the perception from the employees is that the bank does everything it can to make it easy for them, they're okay with regulation. They understand why it's there and the purpose it serves. And I would say the same thing about nurses and doctors, etc. They know where the line is for what is imposed by the regulatory environment, but how you help me deal with that difficulty and how you show up when I get in trouble, that is how you get judged.
Right. Yeah, I think it just seems like a lot of it is just being able to empower employees with the right tools, processes, and such that they feel like they can be effective in what they do.
Yes. So the notion of empowerment is very familiar to the CX world indeed, because it's a real quality word, right? It's let them, like in the hospitality business, like let employees solve problems as they see them on the spot and be empowered to do so. What ends up empowering people is not lots of great communications or trying to make them feel empowered. It's actually about making it easy for them to make the right decisions and to carry out what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And in most organizations we work with in customer-facing roles, you see an amazing amount of opportunity to remove things rather than add things. And there's a very big tendencies for companies that are trying to solve employee problems to say, let's buy a new piece of technology and put it in there because it's going to make it easier for them. But you do that, and how do you know if it really is making things easier or not? And that is the concept that FOUNT stands for, which is you don't know unless you have data that shows what activities are made easier by that investment you've just made, and where has that investment actually slowed things down? Because we often find that new things also create friction, maybe not in the initial area that it was intended to solve, but in other areas. And often the superposition of platforms and tools, etc., ends up creating so much complexity for employees that, you may solve one thing, but actually create more friction overall.
Right.
So that phenomenon of in customer-facing roles, less is more, is a really powerful one that our data tries to enable leaders to start acting on, to make work simpler for their customer-facing teams.
Right. So, what are the ways that your platform or your work helps identify all the points, and what are people trying to do to reduce work friction?
So the first thing that's really maybe that's worth mentioning to this audience is the link between EX and CX is well documented. Most of the organizations we work with have connected these data sets in some way, shape, or form to say, we know that if our employees feel better about their work, they're going to deliver a better CX. One of our customers mentioned recently, for every 2 points of ENPS going up, I know that it's about $450 million of extra revenue that will come in. So there's a very clear understanding of that.
Right.
There's also a clear understanding that the drive to reduce friction for customers tends to take that friction and to bring it in-house, right? Because where else is it going to go?
Right.
And then, so now some of the friction that customers used to bear is now borne by employees. And then comes the questions like, well, how do you manage that? Like, how do you, first of all, identify it? And the way we do this is with what we call a moment-centric approach. So that is familiar to any CX practitioner, except that the universe of moments that you have to consider for an employee is much more complex than the universe of moments that a customer has, because employees do have lots and lots and lots of different activities that they carry out at work. Plus, they have things that they do at work that have to do with their life at work, such as, I want to learn, I want to grow my career, I want to change roles, I want to deal with, a situation at home and the company needs to help me. And on all of these dimensions, whether it's in the activities of work or the activities that are more tied to my life at work, friction is likely to occur. And the question is how much occurs, and we're measuring that. But also the question is, what causes it? And in each one of these moments, you have a different set of interactions that are going to create friction, very much like in the CX world, that you have to unpack and you have to get in the weeds of it to go and find data that will tell you what to fix. So it's it's just a massive mapping, essentially, of the experience of employees that gets in the detail of the moments and touch points that they experience. And that is where you find friction. You can quantify it. And once you can quantify it, you can bring that back to leaders that essentially shape the work. So operations leaders, CX leaders, IT leaders, and put everyone in front of that data set and say, okay, how do we collaboratively solve for all these touch points that are not doing the job that they're supposed to do?
Right.
And then things move.
Yeah. And I assume that they would go through kind of a prioritization. They'd be looking at, here's
very
the
true.
ones that I should start with, or here's easy ones that we could tackle right away. Is that kind of the process?
So the prioritization is about when, because the question is, since it occurs in a moment when someone is trying to do something, right? So an employee is trying to solve a complex customer issue, for example. So which of these moments contain the most friction? So in a call center environment, handling an abusive caller, for example, is very high friction because it's tough, right? And then which of these moments are high importance for these employees? And this importance level can be measured on impact on their intent to stay at the company. So, this makes me so mad that you have so much friction that I will quit.
Yeah.
Or it can be measured on the impact it has on their productivity or various other dimensions. And usually, because friction is everywhere, and this universe of moment is really complex, companies tend to focus on like a pack of 2, 3, 4, 5 moments at a time and get those better and then move on to the next tranche.
Yeah.
Very much like you do in the CX world.
Right. Interesting. So, when I think of all of this together, what do you see as the overall business impact? I mean, how do you measure to be able to say, we've been effective at eliminating some friction, and here's the effect it's had on our business?
So first of all, to measure friction, you don't have two ways about it. You have to get friction data. Right? So if you think about the world of employees, most of the data that we have about employees in large organizations is essentially engagement data, right? Sentiment data, how people feel about the company, its strategy, and so on and so forth, which is all great when it comes to, good engagement and good team dynamics, but it doesn't tell you anything about what gets in people's ways.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So the first things first, you got to measure this. You got to get friction data to do it. Now, the impact it has when you start improving and reducing friction is pretty significant. That impact is distributed in 3 channels. The first one is wasted work. When people deal with friction, they waste time. And actually, Gartner estimated that it's about 2 hours per worker per day that is wasted to work friction.
That's
either
significant.
Hacking through it, passing it on to somebody else, being just stomped by it and just discouraged, or burning out with it. Whatever it is, like 2 hours a day is a massive amount of wasted work.
Yeah.
So channel 1. Channel 2, it takes a toll on discretionary effort, because people that feel that their company does not have their back when it comes to doing the job they're supposed to do are like, well, you want me to go the extra mile, and yet you make it difficult for me to do my work, right? Like that doesn't feel like a balanced story. And there's notion of fairness, like, if you have my back, I'll have yours. And discretionary effort is very important for good CX, right? Like that is where going the extra mile, figuring out a creative solution does not happen if you're not feeling it as an employee.
Right.
And then the third is intent to stay. Right? And intent to stay is basically your attrition rates. And that the leaky bucket is a terrible curse in the world of CX because people come in and walk out, and CX suffers every time. So from our estimates and from customers that we work with, for someone who, a 10,000 people organization, reducing friction by about 20%, we're talking about a $30 million a year opportunity.
Right.
That's pure cash, right? So this is not growth or things like that. It's
Bottom
dollars
line.
saved.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
So that is significant, and and that's just reducing friction by a fifth. So it's not solving it all.
Yeah. It's significant, and as you kind of go through those steps of what's involved, and I think just like we said in the opening, it can be really frustrating, and I think any of us can see how that can easily lead to attrition and all the impacts along the way.
That's
and
right.
How it affects the customer. So,
and by the way, there is a belief that our data actually seems to challenge in many cases, which is people leave managers. The people, this story, people don't leave organizations, they leave managers.
Right.
Actually, you find that people don't really leave managers. They leave work. Mm-hmm. It's the work that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
And because it's just, they don't feel that they can be successful. And now maybe the manager plays a role in there, but the manager is just a touch point in the story.
Right.
The way the work is organized is actually usually not the manager's choice. Certainly not in big scaled customer facing roles.
Mm-hmm.
So
makes sense. Well, Christophe, we are at the point of our broadcast that we always ask our guests for some take home value. So specifically, we're looking for one tip or piece of advice that a CX leader could take away from this conversation and put to use right away in their organization.
So first thing is actually not a piece of advice, but just an observation from many of the organizations we work with. CX leaders play a huge role in managing EX. This system of employees and customers on both sides of that little fence there, you need to manage that as a system. And we see that when CX leaders partner with employee experience leaders, great things happen. They can use similar tools. They can get results on both sides of the fence. So there is a role for CX leaders to play. And don't expect HR to solve it for you. You got to lean in. And often HR doesn't have the right tools to help you solve it, but that's another story. Now, the thing that I would do if you're kind of new to this idea of friction, like work friction, go and sit down with a frontline employee, a customer-facing employee, and ask them about the 3, 4, 5 big things that they do in their work, and pick one of these activities and ask them where they experience friction in that activity. And listen to what they say. And you will hear often pages long of reason why their job is difficult because the company makes it difficult. And just realizing that the elephant is in the room is kind of step one. Then once you know it's in the room, you can figure out how to measure that and how to improve it over time. But just that's a way of spending an hour in talking with one of your customer-facing employees, understanding what their job is like and where they experience friction. You'll see how much opportunity there is for improvement.
Right. It's a great suggestion. And of course, the thing I love about it is it truly is something that somebody listening to this podcast could leave their desk right now, or when they get into work, if they're listening in the car, they could go do this today. So you followed the rules. Very well done.
Thank you. Well, I prepared because you'd asked me. So
yes, good. Christophe, if somebody wants to continue the conversation with you, can they reach out to you either on your website or LinkedIn? What's the
Absolutely.
best way?
So on our website is getfount.com, and many of these things are there. There's research, there's white papers, there's blogs, newsletters, all kinds of things, little demos and the like. And then to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'm Christophe Martel. I'm saying it with the French accent just to show you off. Just get in touch. Very passionate about this topic. There's way too much work friction in the world, and we don't need it, really.
Yeah, great. So Christophe is the CEO and founder of FOUNT. Christophe, thanks for being on the CX Leader podcast. Really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Matt.
And if you want to discuss this topic with one of our experts or have a great idea for a topic for a future episode, email us at podcast@walkerinfo.com. We'd love to hear from you. And be sure to rate the CX Leader podcast through your podcast service and leave a review, because your feedback really helps us out, helps us improve the show and deliver the best possible value to you, our listener. Check out our website, cxleaderpodcast.com. From there, you will find all of our episodes, over 300 episodes, and a link to our blog, which we update regularly. The CX Leader podcast is a production of Walker. We are an experience management firm that helps companies accelerate their XM success, and you can read more about us at walkerinfo.com. Thank you for listening, and remember, it's a great time to be a CX leader, and we'll see you next time.